Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy head up an all-star comedy cast in the new Netflix film, You People. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new Netflix film, You People. This is streaming right now and features not only Jonah Hill, who co-wrote the script with Kenya Barris, the creator of Blackish, and Kenya Barris actually directs here. But not only do you have Jonah Hill and Eddie Murphy, but David Duchovny, Julia Louis-Dreyfuss, Nia Long, some newcomers as well, Lauren London, who you may have seen in a couple of things, but she co-stars here. Sam Jay, a female comedian, and Mike Epps is here as well. You know, he's usually funny when he shows up. So we'll talk about this movie here in just a moment. Before we get to it, I want to welcome you to Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. Please consider subscribing down below. Smash that subscribe button, as they say. Like the video as well. That helps the channel out. And if you comment too, that helps the channel out too. So I definitely appreciate that. And thanks for coming aboard here on Dan Reviews It. So let's talk about You People. Like I mentioned, this was directed by and co-written with Jonah Hill by Kenya Barris, who brought us Blackish, but he actually has written or co-written a lot of movies over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so that you may not even realize. Girls Trip, he had a heavy hand in. Coming to America, the sequel with Eddie Murphy. He even co-wrote Cheaper by the Dozen, the Disney Plus movie from last year. Now, Blackish, I enjoyed watching for many seasons. It's wrapped up now. I think it went, what, maybe 8 years? And I watched probably 4 or 5 of them. But Kenya Barris, you know, has the tendency to, I think, get a little bit preachy and political and stuff with his entertainment. We've seen it, you know, in a few places, not all of them. You know, Girls Trip didn't really have much to do with that, but even Cheaper by the Dozen, they kind of slid, you know, a little bit of political social awareness in there, which I don't necessarily need in my comedies, but we'll get to that here. The basic premise here is that Jonah Hill is this, you know, guy who has a podcast about some social issues with his friend Sam Jay, plays her, and he meets, coincidentally, I won't go into why because it's sort of a funny sort of little meeting point, but he meets Lauren London's character, Amira Muhammad, and she is the daughter of Eddie Murphy and Nia Long, and they have this big courtship. He is from a very Jewish family, and she is, you know, black and from, you know, a Muslim culture with her family, and so the two are sort of trying to blend, and it's not going maybe as well as they had hoped. And I think we've maybe seen this story before a few times. Guess Who certainly comes to mind immediately, the Bernie Mac movie, which was in itself a remake of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. But so, you know, we see a lot of the, you know, the tropes of like, oh, okay, the dumb white people that don't know what they're doing. And then on the other side, we've got, you know, the overly stoic and sort of angry, you know, black stereotypes as well. And they both sort of hit on those things in the movie. You know, at one point, the Jonah Hill character is calling Eddie Murphy's character, you know, angry and stuff. And Amira is like, oh, so, you know, the angry black man stereotype kind of thing. So they're self-aware, you know, of that and what they're doing. But the biggest issue with this movie is that it's unsure whether it wants to be sort of a let's hold a mirror up to society, let's talk about some societal things that maybe, you know, are still issues all these decades and whatever later, or is this going to be a rom-com where, you know, these two people are falling in love and we're getting to watch that, but they're also kind of fighting because of, you know, family issues and whatever. But it's never able to quite commit fully to either. Personally, I don't think it needs to commit any further to the societal issue things. And look, there are some interesting conversations that take place in this movie. You know, there's one specific scene really where everybody's having dinner, the whole guess who's coming to dinner kind of trope. But they're talking about who has had it worse through history, the Jews or black people. And okay, maybe there's some interesting things there to say, some interesting commentary. Okay. But the whole movie, it keeps sort of pushing those issues, and it detracts from the comedy, and certainly detracts from the romance. But also detracting from the romance a bit is that I don't think Lauren London and Jonah Hill have a ton of chemistry. I never quite fully got on board with them being together and falling in love and everything. It has nothing to do with their respective backgrounds. It's just the actors just didn't ever convince me, which is kind of unfortunate because people like Jonah Hill don't often get to do the sort of romantic lead thing. Adam Sandler gets to do it because he's Adam Sandler, but Jonah Hill is not what you would call classically attractive, and so he ends up being more either the funny friend, or if he's doing dramatic stuff, he's sort of even funny in that Moneyball and Wolf of Wall Street and stuff. But look, Jonah Hill's a great actor. He's been nominated for Academy Awards for the two roles I mentioned, and so okay, awesome, and it's great to see him because it's been a while since we've gotten a big movie from him. He directed one a few years ago that was okay, but in terms of like a big broad comedy like this, I'm not sure when the last one was. Maybe the Jump Street movies, which by the way are two of the greatest comedies of the last I don't know, 10 or 12 years. I think the first one maybe came out about 12 years ago or something, or 11 years ago. But those Jump Street movies are great. Him and Channing Tatum, great chemistry, blah, blah, blah. But just the same, we've got Eddie Murphy and Mike Epps. They have a lot of funny scenes together. And Julia Louis-Dreyfuss, pretty funny. She's the most funny, I think, when she's with her own son, the Jonah Hill character. When she gets with the Muhammad family, it crosses over way too much into that. Let's talk about, let's hold the mirror up to society and all of that. I don't necessarily come to comedies for that kind of stuff. And it can be fine in small doses. And, Blackish did it very well for several years, I thought, as a TV show. But we haven't had a, laugh out loud, fall on the floor comedy like the Jump Street movies, like Horrible Bosses, all these great R-rated comedies of the early and mid 2000s. We haven't had them in a while, and it would have been nice if this was more of that and less about let's talk about politics and society and all of that kind of stuff. You can dabble in that, but again, that stuff's been kind of done to death. Guess Who did it? A lot of movies have done it, and it seems like this movie, even though it takes place in the present day and stuff, is kind of steeped in a lot of that sort of hackneyed movie dialogue of like the 80s when talking about issues like this. And maybe the word hackneyed is too strong. I shouldn't say that. It's just been done to death and done better, But that brings me to by far the strongest points of the movie. It's pretty funny. I laughed a lot in this movie. It's great to see Jonah Hill specifically. Eddie Murphy, because we've seen him a little more recently in the Coming to America sequel, and just his Golden Globe speech was very funny, and hosting SNL, he was great. So we've seen Eddie Murphy sort of on this kind of comedic comeback, which has been great. But Jonah Hill, it is so great to see him doing the deadpan lines and all of that. The opening scene, and this is before we meet really any of the Muhammad family, but he is at a religious ceremony with his family, and Rhea Perlman from Cheers is part of it, as the grandmother, and there's a lot of really funny back and forth there that we get in spurts throughout the rest of the movie, but it gets too weighed down, I think, with its own messaging. But look, I appreciate that Jonah Hill and Kenya Barris collaborated on writing this, because I think we do actually get both viewpoints in this pretty well. I just don't know that I needed it with an R-rated laugh out loud comedy movie. So it just seems a little bit at odds with itself. But overall, I did think it was funny. So I'm going to leave You People with a C+. Plus, and it's streaming now on Netflix. All right, thanks for watching. We'll see everybody next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.